All right. Hello, friends. How's it going? Throw in the chat if you can hear me, if everything is working well, if you can see the screen. Let me know. Let me pop out this here chat here. All right. Good evening. All working. All good. Great. Good to hear. All right. How do I do this again? I have to do this every time because I don't take any time to do anything. All right. Can hear and see. Just picked up Livewire for a project. It's super nice experience. Kudos. Thank you. We are going to solve a problem in Livewire today. Thanks, Yogi. Thank you. Everybody throw in where you're from. We have Yogi from India. That's awesome. Yeah, just throw in the chat where you're saying hey from so I can see what we're dealing with here. All right. Let's pin this over here, do some manual arranging. Canada, Egypt. Canada, UK, South Ontario, nice. Florida, UK. Mank, does that mean Manchester? Let me resize this thinger doodle. The doodly do and the doodly don't. Okay. Pakistan, Salt Lake City, Serbia. Holy crap. Oh, UK, Australia, Germany, awesome. France, Kenya. This is so cool. England, home of fishing. Philippines. Okay, Poland, nice. Philippines, Ecuador. That's awesome. Spain, Malaysia, Chile. Can't stay working, but just thought I'd drop in and say, hey, how's? We'll see. Mexico. Nice. Please leave the stream up. I don't know if streams stay up. I think I asked this last time. I think people told me that they do, even though I don't want them to. But I'm telling you, the level of laziness on these streams, like, for me to make sure that I don't mind doing these, I can't put, like, any effort into them, unfortunately, because then inevitably I will procrastinate and I will probably not do them if I do any editing or like post-production or whatever. But anyway, so hopefully the stuff that is the way it is going to be good for you. Alrighty. So we're going to work on Livewire. Hop over to the repo. By the way these streams work, super informal. Throw in the chat anything you want. And I have the chat open here the whole time. So I'll read them. We can talk. You can ask questions. You can tell me if I'm doing something wrong. You can suggest something. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Warren. South Africa. Awesome. Brazil. Cool. Gertjan. How's it going? Throws a penny into the chat. Nice. Okay. Well, GitHub got a new little redesign here. That's pretty awesome. It looks good. I think it looks good. I recently got 3 sponsors on GitHub. That's awesome. Good, and you have a tea ready? That's funny. What do you think I'm doing right now? My left hand is jiggling a tea bag so that I can move it to my little tea bag holder, and now I have a hot cup of green tea ready to go and caffeinate me up, because for me, this is morning. This is about when I start my day, usually 9 a.m. All right, so TMI. Jiggle, because I said jiggling my hand. Okay. Jiggling my tea bag. I think I said something worse than I even thought I did. Oh man, that's funny. That is so damn funny. We're starting off this morning. Okay. I'm not gonna go into the innuendo I potentially made there, but anyway, okay. Back to business. We have Livewire. This is what we have. And there is a bug in Livewire that I've known about because I've experienced it, and I haven't seen too many people yell about it, but a couple people have. So I've been working through the GitHub issues. We were at like 130 at the beginning of the week, and I'm just going through these things. Hey, Muzaffar. And this is what I've been doing. I've been sorting by oldest and then just going through one by one. And I removed all the labels because everything was being automatically labeled as a bug. And when a label is automatically applied, it becomes useless and white noise. So I just ripped out all the labels on every issue, and I just added a few labels as needed. So this pink one is ready to be fixed. So this is kind of a guide to the GitHub issues for Livewire for everybody watching. I label it with ready to be fixed when I read it, I understand it, and I realize that it needs to be fixed, that the issue is clear enough. I label it with that. So these to me is basically my ongoing issues to do. This means like these are ready to go. I've already understood them. I already, verify that they're ready to be fixed. Hey, Nova C, do you love the new GitHub UI? I do. Good morning. First time seeing you live. Good morning to you. I love a lot. Yeah, I really do like the new GitHub UI. I mean, it's like the same thing, so I don't have to retrain my brain for anything much, but it just looks a little bit nicer. So yeah, I'm down. All right. And then I added this needs better reproducibility because I've been being more heavy-handed lately because there's so many issues that people submit. Here, we're going to start off this morning with a little GitHub issue rant. As a maintainer, this is how it goes. You get an issue, and the thing that I want most in the world is for somebody, here's what I want somebody to do when they hit a problem with Livewire. Show us your face at the bottom corner. I know, I should. I don't know how. We tried to do this last time. I use OBS, and I tried to get it to work with my webcam, and it didn't, and it's very sad, and I apologize, but that's just the way it is for now. But that really should happen, I agree. Although you don't want to see my face. I just woke up. My hair is all over the place. Oh, I didn't even do my hair or my makeup. Okay. Twitch. No, this is easy for me. I try to keep it straightforward. If it's not easy for me, it's not going to happen. So moving on, did you experience issues with trying to get latest from model and Livewire going nuts and doesn't response? I think that's fixed now, or it's in the, yeah, that should be fixed. Doesn't even have a Patagonia hat on yet. That's right. Yeah, that's true. My hair is always garbage, so I throw on hats basically all the time. All right, so this is what I want to happen when you encounter a problem with Livewire. This is what I want. I want you to go, something is broken. Now, what's easiest for you to do is to just copy and paste all your components code, paste it into a GitHub issue, explain the problem roughly, and post it. That I understand that that's easy for you. The problem is that's super difficult for me to dig into, to reproduce, for a handful of reasons. One, just cognitive overhead. To have to understand all of that code and then identify what's going wrong, very difficult. B, did I start with A and B's or ones and twos? We're switching to B's. We're switching letters. B's, or B, oh man. B, you probably have code in there that I don't have in an app. Maybe you're using a model called, I don't know, T. I don't have that in my app, so I'm going to have to try to make it work. Anyway, I've basically given up on taking people's big code dumps and making them work and then fixing the issues. So if you post something like that, I can't really help you. What I love is when somebody goes, there's a problem, and then they do this. I better start stripping out bits of code until the problem stops. This way you can really narrow down where the problem comes from. And then once you strip it down to one specific bit of code, then you go, how can I basically just strip it down? Can I reproduce this issue in a simpler way without all of this code, without using this model? And then you post that. That is the dream to me. So when issues are like that, I can fix them so much faster. It's crazy that if you want an issue fixed, I am willing to help. That's what I devote my days to sometimes. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to put work in. I want Livewire to be better. I want it to be fixed. I'm using a Shure SM7B. Thank you, Yogi. Yeah, I want to fix this stuff, but it's so much easier when you make it easy for me. So to increase your chances of getting your stuff fixed in Livewire, please submit good issues. Okay, rant over. So the thing that I want to do today is form does not get re-enabled in case of submit error. And I will demonstrate this problem to you. There's actually two problems related to this, but basically I added a feature that disables the submit button on a form when you hit submit, which works great. But yeah, this is the fix. This is actually a good fix. But if a failure happens, like a 500 error or something, the form never gets undisabled. So I'll show this to you. It is simple to show the face. Activate the video capture device on the sources tab section. We can try it. Sources tab section. What's that? Sources, tabs, video capture device. I don't know what to do. We spent like a bunch of time on this, and every time I can't figure it out. because if I click on this mic, this is my actual mic, this Razer Keo, whatever. And if I hit OK, then yeah, nothing happens. If I drag it here, I don't know. Can't do it. So sorry. All right, so let's reproduce this issue. So this is welcome to Livewire app. Livewire app is my little local app that I use to test stuff and fix bugs. So it's basically a garbage Laravel app littered with garbage all over it. New Livewire version doesn't show up ignition error message. Don't know what that means. But I'm sorry if people have specific questions that they're asking about in the chat. You can throw them in there and hopefully other people can help, but I can't answer. I basically, here's another thing. I'm going to keep ranting. We're ranting. You're not wrong, Usama, for posting that, so don't think that I'm yelling at you. But a lot of people tweet at me their specific Livewire problems, and also on like Zoom calls and my email, and like any way they can get to me, Twitter DMs, like any way people can get directly to me, they ask me Livewire questions and I just can't answer them. So I've just stopped answering people, unfortunately. The only thing that I can do is answer them through the standard channels, which for me is GitHub issues and the discussions tab. There's a lot. The community is there to help a lot with a lot of things, but I can't address individual problems in these, personal ways. Yeah, it's just too much. Sounds like a ticket. Yep, exactly. So if you encounter a problem and you think to tweet at me or email me or something, I can't help you, unfortunately. You have to submit a GitHub issue and we will get to it eventually. But those are the channels. It has to go through those channels. But there's lots of other people in the community, the forums and the discussion section and the Discord. The Discord's like kind of a hidden gem. If you hop in the Discord and ask questions, there's smart people there to answer. All right, so let's show you this problem and demonstrate it. Okay, so we're in Livewire app. We're going to create a brand new component. No, we're not. We're going to use RME. RME is a pattern I use for tons of things. Ignition error page, yeah. So RME, and that could be a problem with ignition. So I use this pattern of RME. I'm just going to do a little quick tangent on RME. Every time I create a new, if I'm creating a new project or branch or component or anything with code just to test something, I name it RME, which is remove me, from rm-rf. I name it RME so that I always name it RME. So if I go to make a new thing and I go Laravel new RME and it goes, hey, that already exists, then I know that it's safe to delete that thing and then do the RME. So I'm only using one project instead of before when I would do test and it'd be test already exists and be oh, I don't know if I can delete test, so I'll make this test 2, So anyway, can't afford the last 2 episodes of working with Alpine. I can't afford the last 2 episodes of working with Alpine JS. Anyone? I don't know what that means. All right, so RME is going to be our component, and we're going to delete everything here. Let's make a submit method. So here's going to be a method called, let's call it save. And then inside of this method, we're going to throw, actually for starters, we're going to do this. Actually, we'll put a sleep of 2. Sleep 2, okay? So this is going to stall out for 2 seconds. And then the view for RME is going to be a form. And wire submit dot prevent, and this is going to be save. So when this form is submitted, it's going to call that save method. So let's add input type text, and then we're going to add a button called save. Okay. You rock, baby. That's funny. What? Okay. Input type text and save, and now refresh. Nope, we got to go to RME here. Okie doke. Okay, so we have this text input, then we have a save button. Now take a look at this. It's kind of tough to see because of Tailwind. Well, let me zoom in here. This will at least help a little bit. Oh, I'm zooming in the wrong thing. Okay. There's no outline or anything, but this save button right here, take a look at it in the HTML. So we're going to get a glimpse for 2 seconds of what happens when I submit this form. So if I click save, there we go. We have read-only and disabled attributes attached to the input and the button. So this is to prevent add background color to text input. Yeah, that's probably helpful. VG Gray 100, 200. Okay. Out of topic, when is you estimate to release the VS Code ebook? Good question. I'll tell you. I have it on the calendar for the end of July, so about a month. I work on it all the time. I really do. So real quick plug, if anybody hasn't done this yet, go to makevscodeawesome.com and put in your email address. I'll send you stuff right away. But this is becoming like my manifesto to VS Code. I'm really proud of it. It's yeah, I'm working really hard on it. And this course, ebook thing, whatever, is going to be a complete like overhaul of VS Code. Like it's going to give you a complete workflow that's super productive and show you how to set everything up so you can be productive. So, okie dokie. So you following here? So the thing that this is supposed to do is to prevent the case where somebody clicks save twice. Like they click save, but then they click it again and they're like, double submitting forms. This is a legitimate problem, even with normal form submissions. And so generally it's good to like add a disabled with JavaScript or something. But with Livewire, so Phoenix Live View does this automatically. And I thought, well, Livewire should probably as well, so that you don't get this case where people are mashing the save button and it's sending out all these submissions. So if you hit disabled, then only one request gets sent out. So if we look at these requests, I'm clicking it and then I mashed it like 5 times right there and you didn't see anything extra. And then read only is great because while it's submitting, you can't edit the text input. So this is perfect. Okay. Dokie. That was interesting. So I typed in here and then I hit save. Let's see if it does it erase that? Oh boy, that's like an issue. Wonder why that does that. Why does it do that? Should it do that? Is this another bug? If we hit submit, oh, wait a second. I don't know if it should do that. I don't think it should. We didn't wire model anything. Whatever. If this had wire model on it, maybe it wouldn't. Yeah, that's probably true. Let me actually verify that. So wire model foo, and let's make this foo, and now refresh. And now if I type into it and hit save, then yeah, it doesn't wipe it. So that's kind of interesting that it wipes normal input elements. I guess it makes sense. It's because if wire model's not on it, Livewire doesn't own it, and it's going to do its normal DOM diffing, and there's no value coming back, so it's going to wipe it. Has anyone tried S3 uploads from Vapor app? Shane, does it not work for you? Okay. So this is our problem. Here, I haven't demonstrated the bug to you. Get ready for the bug. Oh, I'm so sorry. Here's the bug. Instead of sleeping, why don't we'll still do the sleep just because I think it makes it easier to see things. Let's throw an exception. Throw new exception. And this is going to be, I'm going to break things. Okay. All right, thanks, Shane. So I added a or two. Gotcha. I'm guessing a GitHub issue exists for that. Okay. The other thing, while I'm communicating things, PR, you added a PR. Okay. I'm just going to look at that super quick just to make sure because you're here. Add support for S3 prefixes. Okay, so S3 with prefixes works or breaks or something. Okay. Thank you for PRing that, Shane. That means the world. Okay. So here's the problem. Now, what happens? Type into here. Now remember, we're going to get that read only and disabled. Okay, check it out. Save. Yep, disabled, read only. It's right there. After 2 seconds, we're going to get an error. Here's our error. That's that error that I threw, called I break something or whatever. And normally you're not zoomed in like 300%, so this looks normal. But watch this. When I click away from this, so right now this is disabled and read only. When I click away from this, they're still disabled and it's still read only. That's an issue. So this is what we're going to fix today. So we're going to dig into Livewire and we're going to learn a little bit about how Livewire's JavaScript core works. I will say that this is probably out of the realm of comfort for a lot of people here. Livewire's JavaScript is deep, but I've tried to architect it so that you can only look at one slice at a time. And I think I've done a decent job of that here. So this disabled forms feature, I think it's just one JavaScript file. I think, like, if you haven't heard me on I have a podcast for Livewire called Building Livewire. And it's like whenever I don't know, think about stuff, I talk about it on this thing. And somewhere there is an episode called the single file principle. And I talk about this refactor I did, and it might have even been for this feature. So go listen to the single file principle if you haven't, because that's what's behind my decision to make this all one file. So here's the file. First, we're going to get a build up and running. Oh, we're not in Livewire. We need to get into Livewire. Okay. And let's get a build running, or we actually need a new branch. So get checkout -b. This is going to be fix form disabling after errors. Now we're in a new branch, and let's open and split pane and npm run watch. Okay, great. So we're npm run watching, we're doing our bundling, and here's disable forms.js. So this is the single file concerned with disabling forms and read only. This is it. This is the whole file. This is the entire feature in one file. And the reason I'm able to do this is because I've changed the architecture to basically the core of Livewire emits these events. It has this like its own little internal event bus. And there's this event, you can hook into these events, store.register hook, element initialized. So there's a hook manager, and here's a glimpse of all the hooks. There's component initialized, element removed, message sent, message failed, all that stuff. So hopefully we can refactor this or fix this problem all in this file. And I'll walk you through the code really quick. It's pretty straightforward. There's register hook element initialize. So when Livewire initializes, it's crawling the DOM. When it finds an element to initialize, so this hook is only concerned with form submission. So it says, if the element does not, if the element does not have a wire : submit, then return we don't care. So I'm only looking for wire : submit. So now that I've found that, I add my own event listener for the submit event, and then I walk the component. So I walk the component and I set disabled as I go. So I walk the DOM tree, I get the node, and let's see if LL contains node. Right, so I don't know why I did that, probably to fix some sort of bug. And then here, if there's a button type submit, then set disabled to true. If there's a select, set disabled to true. And if there's an input type checkbox, set disabled to true. Interesting. Yeah, so this is going to set disabled on them. And then if it's input text or text area, then set read only. So this is the code. Super simple, right? Yes? You agree? Sips tea. Okay. So as you can see, the problem here, so here's why disabled gets removed. This is an important thing to understand. Because normally disabled does get removed. It only doesn't when there's an error. Why does that happen? So with Livewire uses morph DOM so that when it sends a request to the server, when you do something, it comes back and it does a DOM diff. It takes the HTML it got from the server, so right here, a normal form submission that was healthy, it sends out a request, and then the response gets the new DOM. And it takes the DOM and it walks through and it does a diff and a patch. So it goes, is the form tag the same? Yep, leave it. Is the input tag the same? So when it does this patch, it's going to go, wait a minute. The input on the page has a read-only attribute, and the button on the page has a disabled attribute. But when I get the HTML from the server, they don't have disabled and they don't have read-only, so I should remove them. So this is great because it's easy to build features that get cleaned up automatically. I don't have to clean up after myself. I can just set disabled to true, and as long as the server returns with disabled equals false, or without the disabled attribute, then everything's going to be cleaned up automatically. But this doesn't work for the case of a failure because there is no HTML coming back. So there's no DOM diff happening. So these disableds, they stay hanging out there. So there's a few different approaches that we can take. If your wheels are turning, I don't know how well everybody's following this, but if your wheels are turning and you have any ideas, please throw them in the chat. But I'm going to run through a few different strategies that we could use. So let's see, what are we going to do? So one thing we could do, we could hook into, cool, Adrian. We could hook into, there's another hook called message failed. So let's see, hook manager, there's message sent, and then there's message failed. Yeah, message sent and message failed. There's response received. So maybe we hook into response received and always clean up after ourselves. So I'm kind of curious where response received happens. So response received happens inside of the component index, and this doesn't make sense to you guys, but handle response. So this is when a response comes back from the server. I get all the stuff. I check if there's a redirect. If there is, I do the redirect, and then I call response received before I do the DOM replacement. So if I hook into response received, I don't think it's going to work, because here I'll show you an HTTPS, sorry, an HTTP.js. This is like the driver to actually send a payload to the server, where I make a fetch request to the Livewire message endpoint. This is probably so like bonkers for people. Yeah, right. On Andres, the response received status. So I don't think response received sends a status. Right. And this is why. So here's the thing. If it's a response okay, then I do this. Like, this is where, if response okay, then I get the text. If it's a DD, then I show the HTML modal. If it's not, I do the thing. You don't have to know what this is. You just have to know that this is the thing that just like makes everything work, like a successful response. If there's an error, I do all the on error stuff, whatever. So this on message call. So this is the point. So basically what I'm saying is response received isn't going to get called down here, this hook. So let's see where that message failure hook happens. So let's go back to the hook manager, and here's message failed. And I'm curious where, okay, so here's where I call the hook, message send failed. Okay, so this gets called here, message send failed, message failed. And then while we're looking at message failed, why don't we look where message sent? So let's find message sent. Hook manager, message sent, and message sent gets called after. Okay, so it's like after the message is out to the server, then it calls the hook message sent with the message in transit. Oh, this is getting confusing a little bit, but here's what we're going to do. I'm going to register a listener for this message sent and get the component and the message in transit. But it will also get stuck when you do a dump, right? Yes, that is true. Yes, it will. Great point. Thank you for that. No, it doesn't get stuck when you do a dump? No, I think it does get stuck. Adrian, can you confirm that? Because if I'm looking at it here, here's the, yeah, dump would return okay. Yeah, I don't think it works with a dump. I'm pretty sure that's where I hit the problem most, is with dumping. Because dumping hits this path right here. I check, is the output from a dump? If it is, then I do call this on error, which would say message failed, I think. So let's do some experimenting. Let's, the hook that we want to hook into, first we'll hook into message sent, and then we'll hook into message failed. Okay, this is what we're going to do. And actually, what we can do, we're digging into Livewire here. Get ready, folks. You're about to see some undocumented things. All right, so we have this, and I'm going to window.livewire.hook message sent, and then here I'll just console.log out sent. Okay, and then there's going to be a message failed. Okay, this is nice. I added some error handling where it's like referencing unknown hook. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, past Caleb. Sent and failed. Okay, so we hooked into the message sent and the message failed. So if I hit save, we get sent, and now it fails and we get failed. Great, so let's test this with a dump. So let's say that inside of Livewire app, instead of doing this stuff, we're going to DD, hey, okay. And now I actually have to refresh because I can't hit that save button because it's disabled. But so let's re-register these hooks. Message sent and message failed, okay? Now we hit save and it's sent and it failed. So failed works for a DD as well. That's actually nice. I don't know if it should now that we think about it, but we're going to leave it that way because that's the way it works right now. And I'm going to use that hook to undo this stuff on message failed. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. Let's go back to, go back to Livewire. And now we're going to do message sent and message failed. Now I want to know what gets sent from message sent. So actually we can do this in the console as well. So let's hook into message sent. Let's refresh first. We're going to refresh. We're going to hook into message sent and and we get two parameters. We get the component and the message that is being sent. And I want to console.log out the component and then the message. Whoops. Okay. Now if we hit save, doesn't matter. What I care about is this data. So the component object, every Livewire component has a JavaScript object that is a component. And that's this right here, which gives you access to basically everything. Yeah, this is crazy because like, this is like, I understand this stuff because here's the interesting thing as a creator. Because I wrote the thing, I don't have lines about what's documented and what's not. I try to document what's going to be public API stuff, but there's no lines for me, you know? It's all just Livewire. I can use any of it. But when you're a consumer, you reference the docs and you go from what's documented. So you have like no concept of any of this like component JavaScript stuff unless you contribute to the core. So anyway, I don't know. It's just one of those interesting things that if I'm putting myself in your shoes, like if I was watching like Evan Yu, you know, doing some like streaming some Vue stuff, and he's like, oh, we'll just grab the component object and go into the blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's, you know, I would never ever do anything like that because it feels dangerous, but whatever. Here's the message object. So every message that's sent to the server has a corresponding JavaScript object that lives in memory. And it stores the stuff. It stores a reference to the component, which we've seen above, but then it has this action queue. And this is interesting. Yeah, action queue. And in the action queue, this is because Livewire can handle multiple things at the same time and send them both to the server. That's a whole lesson for another time, but how Livewire actually like has an internal debounce so that if you like have a event listener for a focus and a blur, like let's say that you had wire focus do something on an input here and then wire blur on something else, and you went from this thing to that thing, you would be firing two actions at the exact same time. And rather than sending one and waiting for it to come back from the server and doing it again, I have like a 5 millisecond debounce where I will like capture both of them and send them in a group. So I can send like a batch of things to the server. It's something that I did early on that made the code base way more complex, but I'm so glad I did, because if I had to change Livewire's core to make it work this way now, it would I'd have to like rewrite it. So it's actually great that I did it that way. Anyway, so action queue has one action. The payload is call the method save, right? Okay. And the type is call method. So I'm wondering if I can hook into message sent instead of hooking into my form submission. So like here I'm doing add event listener. I'm adding a submit event listener to the element itself. Okay. Yeah, I'm adding, let me think about this. I'm adding a submit event listener to the element itself, right? But I'm wondering if instead of that, I can listen for the message sent, and I can go into the action queue, find the element that spurred this action, recognize that it's a form. Yeah, but that's it. I don't know. Because you could put wire click on a form, and then this would... Like, I have no way of finding that this was a submit, listening for a submit, which is dumb, because I have that information. I should make that available. I wonder if I should hack the core a little bit. Let's see what the message class looks like. So I specify the component and the action queue. So what I'm actually looking for is the action class. So here's action, and I put the L into action. But let's look at the other types of actions. There's an event action, event, and there is method action. And this is call method. So where is method action? You guys are so lost. I'm so sorry. I'm going to resurface in a minute. Method action, add action, call, method. Yeah, right. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, forget about this stuff. We're going to stick with, you're enjoying the deep dive. That's great. That's good to hear. Very interested in feedback from people in the chat. So if you think that I'm like way off in outer space and you can't follow anything, I would like to know that. If you're tracking well, I would like to know that as well. And the witty quips. Yes, that's part of the package. All right. So we are back to our disabled thing. So here's what we do. We're listening for the submit event. We're walking the DOM and we're setting disabled. Okay. But we also need to register a listener. I think I have it. Are you ready? Here we go. We're going to do some patterns here. Some JavaScript-y patterns. I love this stuff. This, first time Livewire deep diving, feels like home. Cool. Nice. All right. So we are going to I'm going to name this pattern right now. And this is kind of stuff that like you don't read about in books. I don't. I just have to kind of discover this stuff on my own because I don't know. I've just never like heard people talk about this stuff. But I'm going to call this the cleanup pattern. And here it is. And it's something that you could probably implement this in PHP, but you come across it more often in JavaScript because JavaScript is at least browser JavaScript is a long running process. You know, it's like living on the browser. So you often do things that you need to undo. So this is a case of that. I'm doing something, I'm setting disabled to true, and I need to undo it. And there's a ton of different ways you can do this. But here is the beauty of JavaScript callbacks. I think I know what to do. Can you do a listener on any response? I'm reading Ryan's chat. Can you do a listener on any response that will reset the disabled? Can you do a listener on any response? Any response that will reset the disabled? Oh, so you're saying like on every response, no matter what, always reset. That's what you're asking. And I think the answer is no. I don't think I have a hook for a response for message received, which I should. Like that would be inside of HTTPS. I should do that. Yeah, that should happen. But I don't have a hook for that. So, yeah, I mean, we can always add hooks. But, so I could add a hook here that's like, hey, something got back from the server, do something. And maybe that's the best thing to do. Maybe. Because then I'm just always resetting it. I kind of like that. And then I could kind of demonstrate to you how hooks work. So yeah, maybe we'll do that. Maybe let's say if we're going to throw a hook, we're going to need store. So let's go to component index. Okay. Oops. All right, so here's store. And then here I can say store dot call hook, I believe. Oops. Store dot call hook. Yep. And then I can call any hook and pass it whatever I want. So we're going to do store dot call hook. And then let's look at the hooks. It might sound ridiculous, but I was thinking something like if you dismiss the error response, dispatch an enable event for those disabled elements. Like don't do it until, that's pretty interesting. You're saying like listen for the because when I show the HTML modal, I do register a click handler, I believe. Where do I do that? Because I have to have a way to close it. Add listener, click, hide HTML modal. Right, so I could, do something like this, but I'm gonna say that I like this other idea better because it's upstream. That would be like handling it downstream, which actually makes a little bit of sense because when the modal is shown, you kind of think of it like freeze, like it's frozen. And then if you hide it, it'll undisable it. But for my purposes, is this for the error modal? Yes, Jeremy, Jeremy. This is for the error modal. Yeah, exactly. Or the DD modal, they're the same thing. So what if we create a hook? Let's look at the hook manager and look at the available hooks, and so we can name this thing. So there's message sent, message failed, and we could say message received. Now this naming convention sucks. And I give myself a little bit of slack because it's an internal thing. I don't expose this publicly. I mean, you saw how you can use it if you want, and I let people use it, but it's not like something I'm documenting because I don't know. It's hard to name like 15 things well. But yeah, so like we have message sent and message failed. So if we have message received, like it kind of makes sense that there would be like message succeeded, like message succeeded. So like message sent, something's been sent, something's been received, and now message succeeded, message failed. Yeah. So this is tough stuff. So on message.call, what is on message? Connection index.js. So on message is on message, which gets the payload component receive message. Yeah. There's stuff going on here that's a little bit hard to explain. Andy, hey Caleb, on the hooks, the Livewire load sometimes does not trigger anything for me. What is the reason this wouldn't trigger? Interesting. This probably falls into the category of things that I can't really address like personally in public. But I guess you can look through the source code and you can search for Livewire :load, and then it's really pretty easy to grok. Like this is the Livewire like global window.livewire that calls its own .start to like start up Livewire, and when start happens, I go through, I initialize everything, and then I dispatch Livewire load. So if you're not receiving Livewire load, there was an error that happened somewhere in here. Raptor, we are working on a bug in Livewire where Livewire automatically disables forms when you submit them. And if there's an error in the submission and one of these modals are thrown and you click away from it, the form is stuck in a disabled state, so you can't do anything with it. So we want to undisable the form. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of hook system we should use. Should we just add a message received and call it a day? The problem with this is more like payload received. It's kind of hard to explain the difference, but let's say, because we want to hook in at the component level. Oops, not that. Where were we here? HTTP. So the thing is this hook is going to run when any payload is received from the server. So this is going to be an issue when you have multiple components. Yeah, this is going to be an issue with multiple components. So I think I'm going to abandon this approach. Yep, I'm going to abandon this approach. I'm going to undo any changes I've made to HTTP, this file right here. Keep in mind, then you have to have 2 hooks before and after processing. Oh, what do you mean? I'm thinking like what I have to do now. I'll get rid of my hook manager changes. So now inside disabled forms, let's go to disabled forms. The problem is that it would probably also reset manually disabled inputs. Yes. No. Here's, oh, yeah. I think we can do this. Well, we'll see. At TNE, if you could explicitly write out a scenario that I can use to produce that problem that you're describing, just so that when we get it working, if we can test it against that. Andre says on server error hook. Right, yeah, that's, what's the diff payload versus message? Payload may have many messages in it. Yeah, so David, a message is, yeah. Well, the message means the object that was initially sent with the payload. So I don't think a payload can actually have multiple messages, but at least when you're listening for a message hook, you get the message object. And I don't have access to the message object in that HTTPS file, which is why I didn't want to call it message received if I'm not going to pass in a message. Okay. Dan says, does that not already happen? I'm not sure what you're responding to, Dan, exactly. And then Etienne says, yes, he will do that. Thank you. Andy says you could add an attribute to ignore on disable. That's the other thing, actually, because wire ignore doesn't work with this. Clearly, I don't care about wire ignore here, so we have to actually fix that bug as well. There's an issue for that outstanding. Shane Rosenthal, favorite quote 102. Yes. Oh, no. Yeah. That's funny. Uzafar, can't we detect that we are coming from a submit event which expect enabling no matter what and eventually do the enabling thing? Can we detect that we are coming from a submit event which expects enabling? I guess it depends on what you mean, because here we know we're coming from a submit event. If you listen to the message sent hook, there's no way for me to backtrace. Like I can't, that's what I was trying to find out before. There's no way for me to say, given this message object, figure out if it came from a submit event, because I don't like put the event into the object. It would be nice if I did that, but I don't. So I'd have to rewrite the way that hook works, which I don't want to do. So I think I have the solution. We're going to start with the message failed for now. We're going to start with just cleaning up after message failed. So we're adding the submit, listener, let's say at the bottom of this. So let's like clean this up, and then let's say something like this: store dot. Let me see what store dot register hook, right? Yeah, okay. Register hook, or actually, see, this is the thing. We don't want to register a hook for every single element or listener. So I think we have to do this down here. So store register hook, message failed, which is going to get back the component and the message that failed. Okay. All right. How would a form like this react? Gotcha. So Etienne is coming up with something for us to reproduce, which I'm grateful for. Okay. So this is where we can hook into the message failing, and then we can undo all the things we're doing here. So here's what I think I'm going to do. This is the way my brain works, at least. This is the other thing with hooks, is that everything in Livewire happens at on a component scope. Ryan, can you add some sort of property on the server side that will send the component HTML anyway, with the exception kind of like an extra JSON value? No, because the exception gets handled before. There is no way, Ryan, because the exception would be thrown and the server would never generate the HTML. So I wouldn't have that. That's a good question. You could also say like, well, are you sending the HTML to the server? Can you use that HTML? And I don't send HTML to the server because it would increase the payload size unnecessarily. The chat strips HTML. Maybe throw it into GitHub gist. Ryan, yeah, wouldn't handle a dump the same either. Yeah, right, exactly. All right, so everything in Livewire has to be scoped to the component. So if you think about it, Livewire has to work so that if you have multiple components on the same page, and let's say that they're forms and they each sleep for like 4 seconds, you should be able to interact with both forms at the same time. So I can't just hook into this and clear all the disabled for the entire page because one component would be interacting with the other. I need to scope this cleanup to the component. Adrian says, you have to switch chat mode to live chat to see HTML example. Yeah, it's probably better, just put it in a GitHub gist if you can and link it. That'll be easier for me to read too. It's probably gonna be really hard to read here. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. This is the cleanup pattern. This is basically what I mean by the cleanup pattern is this thing I do. When I do an action that I need to clean up, what I do is set what would be the cleanup when I set a callback that does the cleanup when I do the actual thing. So in this case, I set node disabled to true, and then let's create like a pile. It's going to call like var, let's say cleanup stack. So cleanup stack by component ID, because we have to scope this by component ID, which is going to be an empty object right now. Okay. Whoops. So we set cleanup stack here, and now when we perform an action like node.disabled equals true, we'll say cleanup stack by component ID, and then we will set the current component ID equal to so this is where this is going to have to be an array of callbacks. So really the code we're going to have to do is this. Are you ready? If cleanup stack by component ID. So if this is not set, then we want to set this to an empty array so that we can push always. This is like, if we haven't set a component ID on the stack yet, set this entry to an empty array so that now we can push to it. Because otherwise, without this, if there was nothing set yet here, it would say trying to call push on undefined. So we need to set that. Okay. And we can use push and pop right now because the order doesn't matter of these operations, I don't think. Or maybe it should be like push and unshift. Let's think really quick about how we want to handle this stack. So let's say that if we have an array of like foo and then bar, okay? And let's say this, let's call this doodle. Okay. So if we push baz onto foo and bar, now if we look at doodle, it's foo bar baz. So push is what we want, like we're doing things and we're adding it here. But when we clean up from the stack, we want to, this is like, where do you want to start? If you push and pop, you would be doing first in, last out, like philo stack. So like when you push, you'd be like pushing at the end, and then if you pop, you'd be popping off the stack. So what we want to do is instead of pop, so I'll just show you, if we do pop, then it's going to pop baz, and now doodle is foo and bar. But let's say we want to do this. Let's re-push on baz. Now doodle dot unshift. If we do this, oh, it should have returned foo. Oh, not unshift. We want just shift. Then it's going to return foo and have bar and baz. This would be first in, first out. So push and shift is first in, first out stack. And then push and pop would be, I don't know, first in, last out stack. I don't know all the computer sciencey words, honestly. I just learn all this stuff because I have to, it's like learned on the field, you know? So I don't know all the right words, but it's a pretty simple concept. So I think what we want to do is, Oh, unshift, you pass in the index? Okay, so then shift just shifts the first one. So we're going to push and shift so that the first thing on is the first thing off, I think. Yeah. So here we go. We're going to push onto this stack a callback here that sets node.disabled to false. And it's like even more than that, I want to get rid of the disabled attribute completely. So let's do a little bit of a DOM dive here. I hope this is fun for you guys, because this is the kind of like, this is the deep JavaScript-y, like Livewire stuff that I do a lot that I don't think a lot of people in the Livewire repo feel super comfortable with, but hopefully this makes you feel a little bit more comfortable with it. So let's say, here's the button. So if let's say we do this so the button dot disabled equals true, okay? And now if we look at the element here, I think can we pull up the console here as well? How do you do that? There's a way to do this. Here, console, okay. So we can do this at the same time. And let's expand this a little bit, pull this up here so that you can kind of see both at the same time. Okay, clean it up. All right. So when we set disabled to true, we get the disabled attribute. So let's see what happens if we set disabled to false. It removes the disabled attribute. So that's exactly what we want. So disabled equals false. Okay. So first we're just going to worry about disabled. So now that I have this cleanup stack by component ID, I can listen for a message failed. In Chrome it does that. Shane, are you saying that in Safari it doesn't do that? Okay, so now on message failed, we're going to want to get stuff out of that stack. So cleanup stack by component ID, get component.id. And again, this is one of those things where we're going to want to do an if not, whoops, what happened there? If not, then set it to an empty array. There should be like a little helper pattern to do this, like access or array get or something. I don't know, but I think Firefox and Safari handle disabled differently. I would love it if you could pull up a browser and confirm or deny that. That would be really helpful to me. Thanks. So if not cleanup stack by component ID, then cleanup stack by component ID is equal to empty array. So the same kind of thing. This kind of pattern here. See, this is what I used to do. I would do something like this. If not cleanup stack, then cleanup stack equals, and then whatever the thing. If it does exist, then push. This is like the null object pattern. To me, it's like set something up so that the rest of the code always runs in a predictable way. This like very much feels like the null object pattern. If you're familiar with that or not, I don't know, but this is one of those like programming things that I like to do. All right, so cleanup stack by component ID is equal to an empty array, and now we're going to say cleanup stack by component ID, get this, and now we want to shift off a callback and call it. But we want to do this to all of the items in this array. So what we're going to do is do a while loop. So while cleanup stack, I think there's probably a better way to do this. Let me think about this. Is there a better way to do this? Maybe a reducer. Like maybe reduce could do this. Maybe just, I don't know, whatever. This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put it in a while. So while cleanup stack dot component ID dot length is greater than 0. So while there's more than one thing on this stack, go through and shift stuff off and call them. These two parentheses here, I'm saying shift, which is going to return this cleanup callback that I made, and then it's going to call it. Why no early return if stack is empty? Why no early return if stack is empty? Yeah. I don't know. Well, we would first have to check that it exists, or we could just say not. Yeah, so you're saying just like do this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. Yep, That's what we're going to do, because this would be undefined if it didn't exist. And if the length is 0, it would still be considered not, because the Boolean value, oh, wait a second. The Boolean value of an empty array is true, but it would get caught in this while, which would be fine. Okay. Yeah, we'll do return. All right. And then while, we'll go through this and we'll do all the cleanup on message failed. Does this make sense to people? Following this? You seeing what I'm doing here? I like this pattern. Well, we probably have another problem here, but like we would actually, what we want to do is probably clear out like maybe what we want to do is like every time that submit happens, every time that a submit event happens, we set this to an empty array first because we want to clear out old ones. Yeah, this actually cleans this up too. Yeah. You smelling what I'm stepping in? And then this can be a little nice one-liner. So this actually is pretty clean. And then we're always going to reset this stack. Okay. Because if a message succeeds, we're still going to have all this cleanup stuff on the stack. All right. Thank you, Shane. Firefox and Safari are good to go. Okay. All right. So let's see if our little fix works here. So we hit save and we get some error that you can't see because there's no room for it. Now, if we click away from this, hey, let's look in the HTML. Let's look in the HTML. We're going to add a pause. We can add some network latency here instead. Make this fast 3G. We're going to look here. Check out this button. Disabled. Now not disabled. Hey, that's great. Yeah, honestly, this is probably probably good to go. Let's now add some stack stuff for node.read only. Yep, thanks, Ryan. Okay, this is great. Isn't this such a clean little feature, a little fix? I love how clean this is. I call this the cleanup pattern because it's like, think to yourself, is the program that you're doing, is the feature that you're doing cleaning up after something you've already done? If so, then start by locating the cleanup code directly adjacent to the mess up code, basically. Be like, when you mess something up, perform the exact opposite action in a callback so that you're delaying it. You're storing the exact opposite action for later so that later on you can just do this callback instead of, this would be the thing if you don't use this cleanup pattern. Instead of in message failed, you would have to manually like crawl through everything and be like, does it have disabled? Then remove disabled. And then you have those problems, whatever other problems. We're not going to get into it. Musafar, stack component ID equals stack component ID or empty array. I don't think so, Musafar. So here's what I'm thinking. If Livewire wasn't the process to add the read-only disabled, then it shouldn't remove it, right? So, right. So this protects us from that, Aaron, right? Because we're only setting disabled to false if we've set disabled to true. You know what I'm saying? But you're saying that we should say, like, if node.disabled. So, like, if it's false, basically. I see what you're saying. If it's false, then that means we're about to set it to true. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's smart. Totally. Yeah, it's smart. Is this too much for a one-liner? I don't know. Shorter than the line, 2 lines above it. If it was disabled before, it should keep disabled. Yeah. Okay. So then if it's disabled before, it's going to keep disabled. And then we'll apply the same thinking here to read only. So Okay. Good thinking. That makes sense. This is good. And now when we're cleaning up, we're doing the cleanup. Musafar, the reason that I always set it to an empty array is because right now, if you think about it, if somebody hits a submit button and it's a successful response, message failed is never going to happen. So there's going to be stuff left in this cleanup stack so that when somebody hits submit again, now they have like duplicates on this stack, if that makes sense. This is saying like every time the user is clicking that submit, reset that stack so that you don't have stale stuff from before, like clean it up ahead of time, which is great. Yeah. So this probably addresses the feature completely. There, clean up the cleanup stack. You think I should, David, are you recommending a method that I should add? Or are you just like being a goof? Because it's not a bad idea. Okay, cool. Glad it makes sense. So we're getting there. We're at 10:07. This stream is explicitly going to stop at 11 because Matt Stauver streams. Unless anybody knows that Matt's not streaming, but still, we're going to get this whole feature done and ready to go. Not just goofing, but if it's a good idea, I'll claim it. Of course. All right, so I like this. I like this a lot. Read-only and disabled code blocks look similar, maybe refactor. Oh, like refactor these two? Yeah, maybe. Is it worth it? Let's see. I don't know. I don't know if it is. To me, it's not right now, because even with my giant line heights, I can still see both adjacent to each other. Yeah, this is kind of my own style, I guess, that call me crazy, but in JavaScript, I have more of a tolerance for this than I do in PHP. But yeah, exactly, Ryan. That's probably what my threshold would be. Like, this is really clear to me, There's a little bit of duplication. There's some stuff, but it's really clear, Like, this is the entire page here. And I can very easily understand, like, in my mind, like, this is one line, why can't I? Whatever. Yeah, I like it's explicitly, but I also like global functions that anything can push to. Global functions that anything can push to. I don't know what you mean by that, Shane. Are you suggesting like extract this whole pattern into something else? I do have a concept of, I think, a bus I created, like a message bus, where you can register a name and a callback. And then I have message bus, and I think I also have like another pattern. Maybe I did it in Alpine, but I have some patterns already for this concept of like registering things by key on a stack. So if you'll see, like, this message bus is the exact thing that we just did. See how I do, like, if not, then set it to empty array and then push. And then call will just call all of the things in that name. And we could add one called clear that just clears and runs them all. But yeah, so we could expand this pattern easily. You were thinking about the ifs and something like a map. Oh, David, a clear wide stream is better to fish than a narrow muddy stream. That's very true. So what is Shane saying? Global functions. He's saying, yeah, like putting it in a store or something. Yeah. Alpine has dry principles PR, which against your style. Alpine has dry principles pull request, which against to your style. Yeah, I just try to be as clear as possible, honestly. That's the thing that I always ask myself is like, is this easy to make sense? Can I stay in one file? So that's why I kind of like having this here, because it's like, it's right here. The stack's right there. It's just a little thing. I like being explicit. I like doing things, I like keeping it as simple as possible. It's like my kind of mission in programming. Yep. Okay. So yeah, let's commit this, and we need to add a test, and we need to do some manually testing. So what's our commit going to be? Re-enable disabled form inputs on message failure. Okay. Yep. So there's that. I'd test twice, once for dump, once for exception. So we're not gonna push this yet because we are gonna actually write jest tests to confirm this behavior. So we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, let's test it manually first, I guess. That probably makes sense. All right, so this is a DD, and so that totally works. Let's try that again. We have read only and yep, disabled, perfect. And then let's do a, let's get this back to online, okay? And now this is going to be an error. So we have disabled and read only, and now we get an error back, and it undoes those, which is great. So this is good. Okay, before commit, I'd test twice, once for dump, once for exception. Okay, so that works. Now we need to see if it's easy enough to add a jest test for these. So, so let's go to our jest test for this. I'm gonna search disable and then spec and see if I have a spec for that. I don't. Let's say if I have a spec for event actions and then a disabled. Elements are marked as read-only or disabled during form submissions. And then we want to add a new test here. This new test is going to be called, okay, elements are marked as read-only or disabled during form submissions. This new one is going to be fixing code 5 minutes, writing jest 15 minutes. Yes. Hopefully not, but yeah, probably. Elements are marked as read-only or disabled during form submissions. And what we want to say now, elements are unmarked as read-only or disabled after, let's start with successful form submissions, and then we'll do failed. So we're actually adding a test that doesn't exist that should exist right now. So we're gonna have to change our strategy a little bit. I'll walk you through this jest test if you haven't seen jest testing or Livewire's jest testing, but here's the deal. I created this helper utility called mount where you can specify the HTML of a Livewire component. So this would be like the view. And then you pass in a request interceptor, which is like a callback that will run when a request gets sent to the server. So I can do like document.querySelector button.click, and then when it sends out the message to the server, there's no server to send it to. Only one L on successful, thank you. So when it goes to send it to the server, I intercept the payload and I set it here so that I can make assertions on the payload. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of a different strategy. Has chat played with pest and testing? Has chat played with pest and testing Livewire? What does that mean? Has chat played with pest and testing Livewire? Oh, like other people in the chat? Gotcha. I see, guy. Yeah. Like anyone in chat. Yeah, everybody's like, you idiot. I think pest is a new PHP testing library. I think he is asking if we did play. Yeah. Okay, thanks. All right, so here's our thing. We're mounting, but what we need to do is mount and return, like do a successful thing. So I have a utility called mount and return. Mount and return, where you specify the DOM, and then the DOM to come back from the server, and then dirty inputs, which you don't have to worry about what those are, and then a request interceptor. Then a request interceptor, which is we do care about. So we're going to do mount and return. So this is going to be mount, and here we're going to say mount and return. And now I only really care about two of these input types because read only and disabled, they're two different code paths, which I guess is influencing, because I know the source is influencing my decision to do that. So in reality, I probably shouldn't do this, but it's just going to be simpler. So we're going to do it. Okay, so this is good. And now mount and return. So we have this, and now we want to add a new set of DOM, which is going to be the exact same set of DOM. We're going to return the same thing. And so in this request interceptor, let's see where request intercept happens. So this is stuff where I do the await request interceptor. Okay. So await request interceptor is an async thing here, and then it'll do the thing. So this is what we need to do. We need an async callback. Okay. We need an async callback that basically we just want to make an assertion inside of here, I think. Or maybe what we need to do is do a timeout. So let's say that we do, let's see, something like this: set timeout promise dot resolve, and then this is going to resolve, let's say this is like 25 milliseconds. Okay. And wait, not that. What am I doing? Async. Got to wrap this in a, kind of pushing on my skills here. My JavaScript asynchronous skills. Caleb reads every single messages, so better to specify targets. All right. So, but it's cool to chat, you know. You can all chat in the chat while I'm sitting here. All right, so I think this is going to work. So what we're going to do first is make some assertions. So we start by saying expect that document.querySelector input.read-only to equal, or to, we could say to be falsy. Does that work? I don't know, whatever, we'll say to equal false. Okay. And then we'll say button dot disabled to equal true. Nope, false. Okay. Great. And now we click this, and then we're going to await, like, I don't know if we even need to wait. Let's click it and then see if we can get true. Let's just do one thing at a time here. Oops. Just gonna do one thing at a time. Is everybody tracking this jest test thing? Okay. So let's do this. We're gonna say jest event -t, and then oops. Okay. And we'll see if this passes. I might have messed this up here. Probably did. I don't know if I need to like return set timeout. Probably do. Mount and return is not defined. We have to import mount and return. So mount and return to get our auto import. Rerun this test. 45 watching, nice. Shane, what is the Mac command to highlight everything between quotes? No clue. I use Vim, so I did VT quote. That's just what I do. You're such a noob? Nah, I don't know about that. Was just thinking myself, can't wait to learn all these different keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, fellas. If you like, fellas including ladies, because it's not fellows. If you dig, you know, my stuff. Again, that course, which you're already signed up for. Okay, we have passing. That's great news. And just to make sure that we're not getting like false positives, if we change this to false and we rerun it, hopefully it'll fail and say it looks like disabled is true. So if this passes, we're in trouble. But perfect. All right, this is going better than expected. And now what we do is after this response goes back, so this is the thing that's going to trip me up a little bit. I think we have async await inside of Chrome, right? So if I say something equals async Oh, I do that a lot. Seropian. Yeah. Like I'll do like left arrow command to go to the beginning, or left or right arrow command, or alt to go between words. I especially do that like if I'm doing like multi-select. I'll hold alt, you know, because see how these like word lengths are different. So if you hold alt and go there, then you know you're all in sync. So going to make all my devs take that VS Code course. Awesome guy. All right, so async. Let's test out my async function here to make sure that it works. I don't think it does, but this is going to be a faster feedback loop getting it to work inside of Chrome. So if we say await something, yeah, await something, unexpected identifier. What's the unexpected identifier? Oh, promise, that's unexpected. So let's say async return async is it just like, let's say async function is going to return a new promise that has, I'm like forgetting how promises work. New promise where we pass in a callback that has set timeout promise.resolve. If anybody's like ahead of me here in their brains, I would love some help here. So let's see what this does. Now if I do await something, unexpected identifier. Promise? Does promise not exist in the browser? No. Promise.resolve? Yeah, totally exists. Oh. Let's see if this works. Await something. Darn it. Window is not a constructor. What are you talking about? What does that even mean? At resolve. What if we just do this again? New promise resolve. Oh, right. You get resolve as the promise callback. Duh. Okay. So we're just creating a freaking promise. New promise resolve. Thank you, Adrian. Resolve. Then we set timeout resolve. Right. Set timeout resolve. We'll call resolve, and then we'll wait 250 milliseconds. So here's our promise, and now, oh, we might, hold on. If we await something, right, something is not a function. We need to wrap it in a function, right? So if we say async, and then, so async, this is what we want, right? So now something we can call, and it'll just do its thing, or we can await something and console.log, hey. Yes, so it waited 250 milliseconds and did its thing. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So, backing up. We are setting timeout for 25 seconds. Okay. This is good, this is good, this is good. So now there's going to be a lag right here. So this is read-only and disabled are true for 25 milliseconds. So now we want to await 25 milliseconds. And at this point, I pull out, okay, so I already have timeout here, which basically does that. So I basically wasted that time doing that because I think, right, that's an async function. It's not an async function. This just returns the promise. Okay. So I guess we'll leave this here for a second just so I don't confuse myself. And then we'll await a timeout of 30 milliseconds. And now we will expect these to be false again. And let's see if we can get this test to pass. Adrian. Yes, of course. It always does. Okay, we received true. Where is it? Line 168. Received true, we expected false. Interesting. Let's see if we just bump this up to like 150. And now try that. Okay. And that passed. So what was our threshold there? Like for some reason, maybe we make this 5 and then like 15. Which really it doesn't matter. We're just setting the timeout a little bit. And then here we can actually we'll do something better. We'll say await, wait. I think I have other waits here. Oh, wait, yeah. This way we're just gonna keep trying to make this assertion until it works, so we don't have to explicitly rely on a timeout, which can be flaky depending on the environment that we're running this in. Just changed my life by like 250 milliseconds times 5,000 a day. Okay, that's funny. Ryan's throwing out some storm tips here. Okay, so this is passing, and this is good. We are happy. So we're almost there. We're almost there. We're getting there. Okay. Hey, Jason. All right. So now elements are unmarked as read-only or disabled after failed form submissions. After form submissions that throw an error. Okay. And yeah, so here's our new test. And we are going to throw an error. So this is going to be, instead of mount and return, I think I have a utility for mount and error. So mount and error, you set the DOM, and then you have a request interceptor. And then I think what do? I just call on error. I hope that does what it's supposed to do. Let's see. So, Jason, we are working on a bug in Livewire where if you submit a form in Livewire right now, it will automatically disable buttons and inputs will be marked as read-only while the request is going out so that people don't mash a save button and send multiple requests. But if there's an error and that modal is shown and you click away from it, it won't unset the disabled, so you'll be stuck with a disabled form and have to refresh the page. So we've been doing some JavaScript stuff to fix this problem. And so now we're just testing it, writing a jest test for it. Okay, so mount an error, and so we mount an error, which means we're going to mount this and then call this request interceptor, which we do want. Yep, which is going to give us that timeout. So we're going to assert that there's no disabled in read-only, click the button, that there is disabled in read-only, and if we wait, we should lose the disabled in read-only with this mount and error. So let's see if we get passing here. Fingers crossed, folks. Failure. What was the failure? Elements, okay. Mount and error is not defined. I have to import it, and there's no way to easily do an import without doing the autocomplete in VS Code, which is annoying. But now it's imported. Thanks, Richard. Okay, so we have passing, and to verify that this is the case, let's go to disabled forms and let's remove our code that does this here. And then rerun this. And that shouldn't have passed, but it did. Oh, I think I might have been waiting for it to build. So let's try this again. Hi, friend. Could you make a button see more for a long description? Crazy Music Network. I'm not sure what that means. And now we have a failure, which is what we want. Okay. This is good. This is very good. We have a new feature. It's tested. I feel good about it. Let's make sure that our entire test suite passes after we build. And actually, I'm going to interrupt this build and do an npm run build, which is going to do a full production build rather than just the dev build. So that if this test passes, we can make this commit and then PR this to the framework and we'll be good to go. Okay. And then now we run jest. 52 watching. Pretty solid count there, huh? Thanks, everybody. Shane is asking if he's the only one using Livewire on Vapor. If you are watching this and you're using Livewire on Vapor, please chime in the chat so that Shane doesn't think he's insane and alone in the universe. Heading Livewire ignores self to element ignores update to self. So this could be just some non-deterministic error. This is just kind of a reality of the way that I have to test this stuff. Jest is deterministic. What do I mean by deterministic? I mean, is it predictable when we're getting an error? So is this a predictable error? See, now we have a new error. This is not good. And normally these are pretty stable for me. I know in CI they're not as stable as they are on my machine. You know what? I bet it's because I'm streaming and it's like bogging down my computer, so it's messing with all the timeouts. Yeah, so that's embarrassing, but basically, you can't use the AWS key secret to env, so uploads don't work. What? Shane, what are you talking about? Using Laravel, Livewire, Alpine JS, Vue.js. Sorry, Shane. Yeah. You can't add the AWS key and secret to the env, so uploads don't work. I don't understand. I don't use Vapor. I just like build stuff the best way I can, and then I hope that Vapor people can help me. Because I don't use it. I really should like have the basics set up. Read Caleb. I'm reading. But seriously, man, yeah. Yeah. Yep, that's one of those things. Vapor is tough for me to manage. Like I already have like a zillion things to manage. And if I don't use the tool, it's hard. This is like for Better PHP Unit, the framework or the package I wrote for VS Code to run tests. It supports Docker. I don't use Docker. So I just, one of those known things, like I can't do it. I just have to rely on the community I can, build for it, but I have to rely on the community who uses it all the time to keep it up to date, because that would just expand me beyond my limits. Although I do concede that I should, if I say I'm supporting Vapor, I should have, I should make sure that it works. Why do you keep running the test more than once, even after a failure? I don't think I did that, did I? That seems odd, Shane. Think they'd have an... Oh, Richard, are you saying because I was getting a failure and then So I was saying being deterministic tests. So in PHP Unit, tests are generally deterministic, meaning like when you're writing a PHP test, you're doing something and you're asserting an outcome and it's reliable. If you write a Dusk test, they're not deterministic because you're using a browser and real time exists. You can also write deterministic tests with databases, because databases are like a real life thing that can like be not predictable. So in Jest, my tests are generally deterministic, but because the Livewire core uses some timeouts, some set timeouts, I actually have to do lots of waiting around in my Jest tests. And depending on the speed of your computer and the system load and all sorts of weird stuff, you can get failures because those timeouts are off by like milliseconds. Super annoying, but whatever. Has reserved keys for env, so you can't use AES access key ID or AWS secret access key. All right. Shane, you've PR'd things to this? Like do you, before I like talk more about this problem, like you have PRs that fix all this stuff? So event actions. So we're done. We have our Jest test passing. So now we're going to commit this. And we're going to say add tests. That's it. All right, so now we can publish this, legit publish, which is going to put it on the Livewire repo. Okay. Putting this on the Livewire repo, and here it is, fixed form disabling after errors. And this is 624. Musafar? No. It's not fast. Not fast. My wife's MacBook comes in today. I ordered her one, but I've been procrastinating on mine because I don't know which one I want. All right, so this fixes 624. And I also think while we're at it, we should say and fixes, and then another issue really quick that I think we can bang out pretty fast. So here is custom input read only after validation error. This is 716. Hey, that's my area code. 716. Okay, we're going to create the pull request. And now here's the problem with this. I think he's having an issue. Fix it, bro. There's a solution for turbo links. Oh, nice, Adrian. Yeah. I don't think did I do anything with Composer? All right, so here's the next problem that's related. Should be quick. Inside of our RME, let's say that we add wire ignore. Let's say that we wrap this input in a div. Whoops. That is, the div would be wire ignored. Okay. Just fix it, bro. I don't know what everybody's talking about. All right. So we got our thing here. Here's our input. If I hit save, this is wire ignored. You'd kind of expect that Livewire would keep its grubby hands off. But if we hit save, it doesn't keep its grubby hands off. So what we need to do is honor wire ignore inside of our disabled crawl, which is actually ridiculously easy. Basically, we're going to say, as we're crawling, so we see this submit here, and then we're going to walk this component, and then we're going to say, if, I guess we'll say, if L.L, I'm so sorry you have to see this, or actually this would be node, wait, element, the current element, I should name these better. Why is this LM? So embarrassed. Current element, and then L is like the LL. So we're saying element. So if element, yeah, that's sort of true, Adrian, but it's true. It's true, it should. I'm sorry for that. That's the way it is right now. Story for another time, but you're right. It doesn't, though. So I don't think it does. Or maybe it does. I don't know. Whatever. Wire ignore is just for DOM diffing. Yeah. I do agree that wire ignore shouldn't touch this disabled stuff. Do you agree? Does everybody agree? I think I agree. So lm.l, or let's see, DOM element.js, and let's see, get attribute, has attribute ignore. So basically we can say has attribute ignore, then return false, which should skip the walking of the rest of that subtree. Yes, it should not touch disabled. Yeah. All right, so if I add this, this should basically just do it. So I'm so confident, I'm just gonna do one build here. Did it even work? What happened? Missing script. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing here. We need better documentation on what wire ignore does and what not. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Now with any luck, we will not see that read-only and disabled inside of wire ignore. So I thought we had input inside of here. Oh, here it is. Right. Okay. So input should not be read-only, but save should be. Damn it. Oh, who did that? Fail. We are component.walk. Let's go into component index and find walk. And we are walking the callback. We should be if callback is equal to false, then return false. That's what we need to do. Yep. Okay. Yeah, nice, move so far. Yep. I don't think we added Xignore though, right? In Alpine? Maybe someday. But I don't really hear like a lot of requests for it. So let's see if this works now. I'll do one hard refresh for good measure. So now this input should not be read-only and the button should be disabled. Success. Okay. Now let's just add one test for this because we have to be thorough. So let's take the original one. This, here it is. There's actually, but we need a skip and ignore combination. Oh, it does exist? Okay. Elements are unmarked. Elements. So here we're going to add another test, and this test is going to be called elements are not marked as read-only or disabled during form submissions if they are within a wire ignored, if they are within a wire ignore. So back to this, and basically we will wrap this in a div with wire ignore. Okay, and then we click our thing, and let's actually let's do this. So we are going to say okay. So we want the button to be falsy. Is that how you spell falsy? And then we want, I think that's how you spell falsy. I don't know. And then we want the input type text, read only, to be truthy. So let's see if this works. Jest, event, actions, actions, T, wire ignore. See if that's a good filter. Okay, we're getting to the finish line here. We're at 10:45. We're doing well. We're doing well. Failure. Falsy is not a function. Because I think it's this. Hopefully. We'll see. We will see. All right. We have passing. So, and we npm run build already. Hey, Caleb, started using Livewire in all our projects now. Had probably set up multi-select dropdown. Had probably setting up multi-select dropdown. Had problem setting up multi-select dropdown. Gotcha. Awesome that you're using it in all your projects. And if you can, submit an issue to the repository. If you can reproduce the issue in as slim and stripped down of code as possible with none of your domain code so that we can just copy and paste it into a component, we can help you, but also, you know, it's great when people can pitch in and pull request fixes as well, if you feel comfortable enough. Guy, it's been a really informative cast. That's awesome. All right, so let's finish up. We have our full build. We have this thing. We have this thing. We are good to go. So let's call this honor wire ignore for form disabling. Okay. Yeah, I haven't done any like Livewire stuff on this live streaming stuff, I don't think. Thanks, Shashank. Shashank, I can put on forum Alpine for you later today using choices. Oh, cool. Thanks, Andy. Okie dokie. So. We're doing so well. We're going to kill 2 issues today that I've been wanting to kill. So this feels great. Hopefully this build passes. As soon as this Jest test passes, we're good to go because we didn't make any PHP changes. And this is good. Fix form disabling after errors. Let's do a quick run through our diff and make sure that we're not leaving anything we don't want in there. Clean up stack by component ID, and then why are these lines different? Oh, because I added a space, and then I honor wire ignore, and then we walk through and do our thing. Also this thing, if the callback explicitly returns false, return false, so that we skip walking nested DOM trees. And then we add a bunch of tests. This is perfect. This is a perfect pull request, if I do say so myself. Something failed. What failed? Oh boy. Let's see what failed. Run test. Hopefully it's one of those determinism things. Yeah, there's a polling failure. Cannot read property. Store responsive null. I think this is... So if we... How do we rerun these? Where am I? Should be able to rerun all these. Usually there's a button. I don't see the button. Huh. Usually there's a button that says rerun all workflows or actions or whatever. Here we have to go into the entire actions details. So honor wire ignore. For form disabling, what is this? This is the commit. So let's cancel this run. And then this is the pull request. And let's, it's queued. And now it's running. And that seems to be working. So, yeah, I mean, I think the test pass, this is just like a CI trip up thing. Ugh. Yeah, right? I should be able to just... There we go. Rerun all jobs. And then that should do it. Hopefully. Does it return the exception? I don't know. I think so. Yeah. I think the message contains the exception. I could be wrong, though. Should. Yeah, curious why you ask. For... Oh, I think I might know why you're asking. Okay, so this is rerunning, and as soon as we get Jest to pass, then we're going to merge. You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to merge it, and we'll see in the commits, you know, like once it's merged. Once it's merged inside of the commits, there will be a merge commit, and then this is going to run the CI, and if that fails, then I'll fix it, but I'm sure it works. So this is good. This is very good. We solved some problems. These issues are now closed. If I refresh, this should be closed. And I said fixes, but maybe I need to add closes. Maybe fixes doesn't close it automatically. Whatever. Thanks. This issue will be fixed in the next release. Okay. And then we have that other one that we can close, and that's a stream, friends. I'm going to wrap it up on that. I'll close this last error so we can get the satisfaction, and I may have closed it already. Yeah, it did. Maybe it just took a little bit, whatever. Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to keep working through these issues. We're down to 91. I would love to have this down to 1, but that takes so freaking long. So this is the thing I number one most love help with, is when people, just like if you're ever looking for a way to pitch in, all right, here it is. Ryan, I've learned a lot today. Nice to see someone else's thoughts and respond to live feedback from community members. Yeah, great. I love it too. I'm super happy to get on this chat with you all. So here's my ask for help. If you benefit from Livewire and if you just want to contribute to the community, if you want to contribute to the project, probably the most helpful thing that you can do is pretty much what I did on this stream, is basically go to the issues, go to sort by oldest, and whoops, I unsorted by oldest. Go to sort by oldest and just work your way through it. So these ones that I marked, you don't have to worry about, like those, unless you want to create pull requests to fix them, which you can. That's great. But going through, and if I haven't labeled them, it means I haven't really like fully grokked them, even if I've like read them. So it's just like, great, just like pick one and go to it and be like, is this a clear issue? Can I reproduce this? That's huge for me. Just saying like, or, commenting and being like, if you could provide better whatever, and then likely, I shouldn't say likely, but a lot of times the person who submitted it might not even reply, and then I know that we can close it. Or maybe you can figure out the problem and help me, so that you can write like, did a little bit of digging and these are some things that I found. So that stuff is super useful to me. Yeah, it's super hard to maintain. It's so hard to keep up on issues and pull requests. It's like a ton of work. It's a never ending pile that just keeps building and building no matter how hard you try to like get it down there. So whatever. Anyway, that's the thing that I really appreciate help on. But I appreciate everybody hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. I don't have anything else. Does anybody have anything for me? Because I'm probably going to close this thing out. Now's the time. Throw in the chat. But not specific problems people are having. Would love to hear some Alpine V3 status. Yeah, so here's the Alpine V3 status. Thank you, Shane. Alpine V3 status is basically, I know exactly what I want it to be, but I don't have the time to do it right now. Livewire is, I want to get Livewire to V2 by Laracon. It's a lofty goal, but it would be great if I could like demo a new version of Livewire with all the things I want at Laracon. And then I would work on Alpine V3. That would be the next big push. Because Alpine is actually stable and it works well right now. So like Livewire is stable and works well, but it's a much bigger product, like orders of magnitude bigger and more complex and more like even powerful than Alpine. It just solves so many more problems in bigger ways. So Livewire is the thing that really takes a lot of work, and I feel like it would be a little bit silly of me right now to put all my effort into Alpine, improving Alpine, when I feel like Livewire needs it more than Alpine does right now. And these are the kinds of things that I have to really like absorb myself. I have to like absorb my brain with big things like that. So if I'm going to do one, I'm going to, really put all my brain into it. So my goal has been get most of these issues, I'm not going to get it down from 90, but like get a good handful of issues done, close a bunch of stale ones, get the repo to a place that's like pretty good, and then work on this V2 dreaming stuff that I want to do. And I think V2 is going to be killer. I'm really pumped about it. But yeah, thank you, Guy. Anybody who can do that, anybody who can pitch in on the issues, huge, huge, huge thanks. It helps me so much. It really does, big time. So thank you everybody for watching. And with that, try it. Go grab an issue. Basically, this is like Dave Ramsey. He's like a financial guy. He has this thing called the debt snowball. And basically his advice for debt is not find the worst debt and kill it. It's find the smallest debt you have and kill it so that you get a win. And then it's like a snowball. So you like go to the next big thing. So look at the issues and see if there's something that you can basically be like, hey, Caleb, you can close this. That's great. I love closing issues. But if there's like a small fix that you're like, I think I can bite this off. I've watched his streams. I understand how to, the basics of of contributing, and I'll contribute a small fix, and that's huge. The more issues that I can close, the better. And so look for the smallest, tiniest issue you can find, anything, and that is super helpful for me. So yeah, it doesn't have to be big stuff. Ryan, I may tackle the bigger one. Haven't done a lot of collab stuff, but I'm happy to help. Ryan, what bigger one? Do you mark issues that are easier for newcomers? I should. I marked this one. Testing breaks when it has a Ketzler out. This is a good first issue, but I think Dan Heron is working on this one. But yeah, I mean, that would be nice. I think Dan is actually working on this one, but yeah, this one's going to be done. I should close this. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try to mark some good first issue ones. Yeah. Discord. What's the link to the Discord? Good question. This should be in the README or somewhere in the docs. Is there a pull request to put it in the docs? Because I think it would be great to have a Discord icon. It would be nice to have a Discord and, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll just go to the Discord and post it in here. Yeah, you can try the PR, but there's not a lot of room for stuff in here, so I wonder what would happen, like responsive-wise. Okay. Yeah, it could actually work. Yeah. Yeah, if it was like... that could work. But yeah, the Discord channel is... Livewire would be amazing to work also without JavaScript. You mean like a non-JavaScript working mode? I brainstormed that with somebody the other day. Maybe Decol on the No Plans to Merge podcast. But this is a Livewire Discord. How do I like copy a link to this chat? You know, Discord confuses me so much. I just don't understand it. Drop down. See if I like invite people or send a server invite link to a friend. See, I feel like this is like a personal invite, you know? Yeah, it's not like the server link. Start a Slack channel instead? No Slack. Refuse. Done with Slack. I'm not going back. Yeah. Well, if anybody knows how to... Oh, look at that. Anyway. All right. This has been super fun. Thanks everybody for hanging out. I'm going to close out this stream now. So good hanging out. Oh, I suck at goodbyes. Am I going to click the button? I'm going to click the button. Have a happy Friday, everybody.